That's what I say when I'll stop.
All right, folks. Welcome back to Talking Badgers, and we got a jam-packed show for y'all tonight. It's because Wisconsin football is reeling after a tough 16-13 loss to number 1 Oregon. That's 3 straight losses for Luke Fickell and his team. Now sitting at 5-5 with bowl eligibility hanging in the balance. And by the way, Phil Longo out as offensive coordinator. What does it mean for the program moving forward? But it's not all bad news in Madison because our boy Greg Gard has the basketball team rolling. At 5-0, fresh off a big win over Arizona and Alphabet University. So is it time to take this group seriously? We got a lot to get into, so let's dive in here. Jay, man, I think in a lot of ways, Wisconsin, they absolutely threw the house at the Ducks. You know, they gave their biggest swing at home. It was good, nice to see Cap Randall rocking. What are your biggest takeaways coming out of that one?
I said it in the group chat. I was really impressed with Trestle's defensive game plan in general. I thought the first possession there was like a 3rd and 3, and he had a bunch of guys at the line of scrimmage, and they bluffed and they only sent 3, and it was just like the easiest throw. And I was like, here we fucking go. This is going to be a nightmare. And then the rest of the game, he showed pressure, he brought pressure, and he mixed up looks. I thought that was the most I've taken away from the defense all season, and I was really, really impressed with that. And I thought that was something to build off of. I'm fully confident in where the defense is at for the rest of the season, the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, the fact that there was a pass rush, I think, like John Pius, he was disruptive in that game. I mean, they tightened up the defensive line rotation. I think that did a lot, honestly. But yeah, I agree. The defense is coming a long way. Coop, what do you got coming out of that one?
Well, first of all, I'll eat all the crow about thinking that Oregon was going to beat us by 40. I was wrong. I can admit when I'm wrong. I'm a man of integrity. I'm with Jay. I thought the defense played extremely well. Obviously, Oregon was without Tez Johnson, who's an absolute game breaker, and I would have loved to watch play against the Badgers. I love Tez Johnson. But yeah, I thought the defense was great. I think good call out there with Pius, Dylan. We can finally take him off those milk carts. We found him. We finally found him.
It was worth the money.
2 weeks left in the season. Finally fucking found him. Yeah, defense is great. Like, Tressel earned himself a job next year, I think, with this game. Especially after how we looked against Iowa. I mean,
there's something to be said for that, right? Like, they got absolutely smacked, and they're still playing hard for Fickell. Like, that much is apparent.
Yeah, Oregon, I think they only averaged like 4 yards a carry, maybe. I'd have to look back. So, not like we've been getting shredded on the ground recently. Sorry, can't talk. But obviously the big problem is, and I don't let Ryan go here after this, but the offense. I think Marshawn could throw the ball better than Braden Locke at this point. Like, what are we doing? Is he better left-handed than right-handed? I thought that to myself watching, like, after he made that throw. I was like, dude, should we just say,
has he just been doing it the wrong way the whole time? Because that would make a lot of sense.
Is he
a lot of sense?
Who's that, Ben Simmons or Greg Oden, where they're like, dude, you're actually not like right-handed or left-handed. Yeah. Like, you're 20 years old. How do you not know this right now?
I'm upset that we were robbed of that moment, though. Like, that would have been, we would have talked about that shit 5-10 years from now. Remember that night against the Ducks when Braden Locke just fucking improvised across his body, left-handed touchdown? That'd have been right up there with his thick six last year. You know, he delivered us a couple big moments almost.
They probably would have just counted it if it was Pat Mahomes.
Oh, absolutely. Internet would have went wild.
Ryan, let's talk about it, man. Where's your head at? Good, bad?
A lot of mixed emotions. That's a good point about that left-handed touchdown. As I was walking with my son back to the car, and I was just, I try not to get my hopes up throughout the game, although I did have a tweet that was still in the drafts where it was a clip of when I said, yeah, we're going to beat Oregon 100%, no question. Oh, I was so close to hitting that a couple times in the game, and wanted to get that shot off, but good thing I didn't, because we managed to, piss the bed like we've done a lot. I started, like, sometimes I notice when I watch the game, I start, like, once they start losing and I start getting pissed, I'm like, I just have that negativity to me where it's like I kind of want bad things to happen. And then I just started thinking to myself, like, as I'm walking to the car, like, how hilarious would it have been, because we're always waiting. The prop bet that always cashes is that Braden Locke interception. And I was thinking, how hilarious would that have been? Not now that I'm calm, but when I was pissed, I was like, how hilarious would that have been? Like, they're going in for the touchdown and he throws a 105-yard pick six with his left hand. and how loud that stadium would get, because it was close. Like, that was not a good throw. Like, we can call it a good play. Like, he threw it left-handed. Like, the receiver came in front of the DB to make a catch. Like, if that was 105 pick six the other way, that stadium would have lost their collective mind. I mean,
100%. I've got it up in one of the articles I wrote over the weekend. It's worth going to take a look. I put in the all 22 clip from it. And just watch Braden Locke's reaction to his own throw when he walks over to the sideline, and I promise you it'll be worth the trip.
Yeah.
It was some gladiator, like, I'm him type shit.
Yeah, that's also cool when you're not 4-8 as a starter. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I love the energy. We also can't get beat 42-10 the week before. But so when you think about where our head is at and kind of tie it into, like, the Longo news, when I first heard he was fired, I thought that I thought it was good for his well-being, because after Tressel only held Oregon, the number one team in the country, to 16 points, if he didn't get fired, Tressel was going to catch a felony murder charge for killing Phil Longo for that offensive performance after his defense. Basically, what was it? 1 touchdown, right? 1 touchdown, 3 field goals. Like, come on now. Like, you got to win that game. 96 yards and cutting it, bro.
What was Oregon doing on that fake field goal, though? That was
absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, but at the end of the day, you had Braden Locke. Are you that afraid? He had 96 yards total.
That's what I'm thinking.
I'm going to fake field goal. I would just wait for it.
Also a fair point.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the last couple of years against Iowa. It's like, if we started with the ball, having to drive 80 yards, like, there's no chance we score here. Like, absolutely no. I felt similarly. Like, I at no point thought, even going into that last drive, that Braden Locke was going to lead the Badgers down the field and score a touchdown. I didn't believe it for a second. I mean, like you said, he finished with 96 yards. It was the second lowest. I mean, it was the lowest passing total the Badgers have had in a home loss since 2018. When Jack Cohn threw for 60 yards. It was terrible. I mean, Braden Locke is it. You know what? I'm going to walk back. I'm not even going to be frustrated about it, because it would be hypocritical. I've said the whole time this is who I think he is. So I don't really get to be angry, but yeah, he was an absolute liability. Liability.
Don't understand how you can stick with him. Like, I get everyone being like,
never a doubt, Jay. Never a doubt.
That Mabry's not ready. I don't care that Mabry's not ready. Like, I don't play the walk on. I don't care. You have to play somebody up. Play Tyler Van Dyke with one knee. I don't care. You have to play somebody else. Yeah, like, run Wildcat. You have to do something. It's like negligent at this point to play Braden Locke. That is insane. I know I'm in the minority of this, but I think Longo was kind of dealt the short end of the stick there, because, like, somebody had to pay for it. But Longo brought in 2 quarterbacks that both got hurt. Both those guys don't get hurt. Like, who knows what happens? He might get another year too. Fortunately,
Tanner getting hurt or not didn't affect how good he was at Wisconsin. I think I'm going to throw that out there.
Yeah, we saw at the beginning of the year and the end of the year kind of what it could be. And it's like, if you get a month to prepare for every game, it might look like that LSU game, which was still a loss. But you might have better results. But I don't know that the quarterback would have saved him, though, Jay.
Okay, still, my point being that I maybe in the minority of this, and I feel like I'm normally pretty, like, reserved, but, like, and I hate when you say fire Gard, but like, both of you.
Who's you? I'm hard for Gard.
But I'm just saying.
Lock on.
If I do it in jest, brother.
If Braden Locke plays the next 2 games and they go out there and score 12 points and he throws for 90 yards, like, Fickell should be fired. Like, everybody on the staff should be fired if Braden Locke plays.
Well,
ever again. Like, that is mind blowing.
I don't disagree with you. I have one of the things in my notes while watching the game. Are we watching the college version of the Chicago Bears coaching staff. That's how I felt
Might be.
at points watching this fucking game. The offense can't do anything. I mean, at least their offensive line can semi-protect.
I want to burn the program down. If
No shit.
more fucking snaps.
I don't disagree. Some of the coaching decisions in this game were fucking horrendous. I'm surprised I didn't get a noise complaint. 4th and 9 on our own, I think it was 29-yard line with 2 minutes left or over 2 minutes left. We had 3 timeouts. 4th and 6 with a guy who can't throw the ball into the fucking ocean if he's in the goddamn water. Why are we going for it? Our defense is playing well. We're down 3. Punt the fucking ball.
I watched that game on a flight, and I think they thought I was going to take the plane down. I was just mumbling to myself constantly.
You got that look to you.
Yeah, I know. I do.
They already had eyes on him.
Yeah.
And I told you guys I had a couple glasses of Chardonnay. Like, what do you expect?
Chardonnay, baby. But yeah, that 4th and 9 at the end, it just drove me crazy. Like, what is going through your mind as a head coach? What offense who can't move the fucking ball and a defense who's actually playing well? Why not try to we have a pretty good punter. Last time I checked, why not try to flip the field? Hopefully your defense gets a nice stop, go 3 and out, and then you get better field position.
Bertrand's out at quarterback right now.
Right.
Yeah. Not even like anybody else.
And then I don't think it helps that you can say what you want. People are going to have their own opinions about this. Luke Fickell seemed like I know Kendrick tweeted it in our DM, and then I went back and watched his press conference. Kind of a fucking prick. Yeah, I get he's probably just frustrated answering the same questions again and again and again. That wears on a man, but
he was really kind of testy about firing a guy on a Sunday and then wanting to just lead with his opening statement.
Yeah.
Thinking about it and then making it pretty clear that he wanted that to be the end of it. And then as if they weren't going to have questions about the biggest storyline of our regular season effectively, other than maybe TBD going down. I don't know what you would be surprised by in that exchange. And then when, people would ask follow-up questions like, oh, we're going back to that, or back to square one. Everyone's entitled to a bad day. I'm as big a prick as they come. So I'm not going to be a hypocrite here, but he was being a prick. For sure. He was out of line. He was having a bad day, and he decided to go in there and pick a fight.
Well, and then whether he was joking or not, when he was talking about calling plays, he's like, well, I've called plays, right out of college in 5th and 6th grade. Bro, you're head coach at a fucking Division I university who is struggling right now. The world's falling apart if you ask a lot of Badger fans. It ain't time for fucking jokes, dude. Figure this shit out. That's why I'm with Jay.
That's a quick way to lose a lot of people, lot of fan base, is to be he was playing victim on something that he is it's his doing. He did all of this.
Well, that's the part that I struggled with, is because I went back and watched that whole thing because a lot of people were saying, oh, it was testy. And I feel like some fans are just like, oh, he's aggravated. He doesn't owe the media anything. 100%. He doesn't owe us. But don't be flugaze. You can't come in there cracking jokes and having a good time, and then when the times get tough, you start firing back. Because the only thing that I saw that bothered me, I didn't like the joke cracking, but at the end of the day, I mean, Buddy's 12 and 11 as a head coach. I'd be pissed too. He comes from Ohio State. He had a successful program at Cincinnati. He's probably not used to losing like this. It probably pisses him off. The only thing that really bothered me about that whole exchange is when he tried to blame the media. Who's the play caller? Why? So you guys can point fingers. Number one.
Why does it matter? Because it's kind of a big
deal. There's multiple parts to that, because he goes, oh, so you guys know who to point the fingers. So of that response, why are we going to point fingers? You assume it's going to go bad. And number two, do you think we were the 12 or 15 media people in that room that are going to point the fingers? Are those the 45, 50,000 that booed the offense off the field after the third drive and kept booing every time they had to punt? That's not the media's fault. It wasn't our fault that you fired your ineffective offensive coordinator. That was a decision you made on Sunday. We didn't tell you to do that. So don't get mad at us, the media, or whoever consists of the media, because you had to do the head coach job, which is fire ineffective. Boss can't be mad. Boss can't come and tell the customers he's having a shitty day because he had to fire his assistant manager that wasn't doing his job. Like, the customer doesn't care. Like, we pay for a product. You're not delivering it. Like, don't be a jerk about it. Because at the end of the day, like, you can be mad at the media all you want. We're just a microphone to your customers and your consumers. So like Jay said, like, you're going to piss off a lot of people that are fans when they see that interview on YouTube and Twitter and everything. Like, why was he so rude to those people? Like, Wisconsin media covers the team very, very favorably.
And one thing too, what he said, like, it's going to be a collaborative effort on who calls the plays. You got 2 quarterbacks, you got no quarterbacks. It's the same thing. We need someone who's calling, like, who's going to take over and control this offense. And I don't know, maybe I'm out of line here. The fans deserve to know who that person is.
It just seems like it would cause division too, even amongst the coaches, because like
and the players
in a critical situation when whoever it be,
too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, somebody says one thing, somebody says other thing. Fickell overrides them and says another thing. Then they're all like, "Well, fuck this guy!" Like
all within 35 seconds, Jay.
Right.
Here's the element of the play calling fiasco that I'm actually like really interested to see this weekend. The play caller will be Nate Letton, tight ends coach. He will be calling plays. Kenny Guyton will be relaying them. That's the plan in place, at least for now. But during Wisconsin's hot streak, when they were able to run the ball really well, there were a few people. I think it was both Fickell and Longo that kind of shouted out Nate Letton for, really effectively creating all the blocking schemes that they were using in the run game. They were really complimentary of what he was able to, kind of do from a scheming standpoint. And so I'm really interested to see. It's very clear that, Letton's ascension, obviously this is by someone getting fired, but this was somebody who was an analyst, brought over. And then when Gino left, he stepped in and took over tight ends coach. And now here he is, in year 2 already, and with enough responsibility here that like they're believing in him. I'll be interested to see, knowing that Fickell wants to run the football. Like he wants to do a lot more of that. How a Nate Letton down the stretch could potentially pair with what Fickell is wanting. I'm not saying it's going to be, fantastic or that all of a sudden they're going to start scoring points, but I'm interested in that element. Like, he's been credited for, being able to drum up some impressive running schemes. Fickell wants to run the ball. Couldn't that work down the stretch? Because I think that we are capable of beating both of these teams.
Well, there's the question I have about that is, why is it like so like, I think he thinks that no one's going to share this information. Like, did he think that people weren't going to find out who the player? Like, it's not Fort Knox. Like, people knew Longo was fired hours before your press conference or hours before your article came out. Like, lowly old me was getting text messages about it, that it was going to happen at like 2:30 in the afternoon. So the idea that like you're not
getting, I tweeted it from my burner.
There you go.
Didn't get that.
But the thing is like Letton, I really like him. Like, when I went to the practices, this guy, and his coaching probably isn't for everyone, but he will MF somebody and I love that kind of coaching. I can appreciate that. It gets me all hot just thinking about him just MFing a guy if they mess up. And I like that kind of like alpha leadership. I just don't understand why Fickell wouldn't. I just don't understand why Luke Fickell wouldn't just say like, "Hey, Nate Letton's going to be like exactly what you just said." It seems like you could say that, and the fans would be more understanding of like, "Oh, this is what Guyton's going to do. This is what Letton's going to do." Letton was on the AFCA 35 under 35, like, so he is well known in the coaching ranks. So it's not like you're just hiring us to do it, like, and you're going to buy yourself some credit, because if people then, who's Nate Letton, and they go Google, oh, he's a pretty young coach. People are going to live with mistakes. People are going to live with issues. And the whole like idea that Luke Fickell wants to run more, they've run 55% of the time, which is Longo's highest in his career. So when they talk about running, are we going to get to Army running numbers, or what kind of running are we doing? Because that's a very, very high. That's like Paul Chris.
Don't get me excited, dude.
Well, I'm just saying 55-45, that's a Paul Chris split, and that's what we're at right now.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting, because Fickell, obviously, in his never a doubt statement about Braden Locke remaining the starter, the rest of that quote says, I don't know what else the idea is, right? We all have to put some pressure on different people. And again, Braden's had a lot on his plate. He's got to continue to grow and be better, and he knows that. And we're going to give him a better opportunity to be able to do that. To me, that's Fickell saying that he doesn't believe that he's been put in the right positions, which I do believe that he gave Phil Longo. I believe that the appeal of coming to Wisconsin was probably that the offense is yours. I'm going to be hands off. And to me, this is just where the whole disconnect was.
Yeah. But after 15 games in, we could tell something ain't fucking right here. That's on the head coach. We need to change that shit.
Right. At a certain point, you have to step in. I mean, he was fired with the 91st ranked total offense, 97th in scoring, coming off of a year that was the worst in 19 years, 104th nationally in EPA per play. They had you didn't look at last year's offense and think like that was a quality offense, really. And if you look at all of the advanced metrics, they are worse in every single category other than yards per play. That is the only area that they have actually taken a step. Yeah. I mean, this wasn't going to work. And as much as it is kind of weird timing to have not maybe done, I mean, I understand that the straw that broke camel's back was Oregon, but you had the bye week. If you're already at 50-50, it kind of seems like we could already be a week ahead of where we're going to be going into 2 meaningful games. But whatever, I guess in the end, it just would have postponed the inevitable.
I keep coming back to him, Fickell being standoffish about why does it matter? And I've seen a lot of people or some people say well, he wants to protect, that's the excuse. He wants to protect whoever's doing it. But whoever's doing it, you'd be crazy for the fan base to be oh, it's this guy's fault that we lose the next 2 games.
Exactly.
You're in a no-win situation anyways. Nobody's going to be mad at whoever is calling plays.
0% chance. You're 100% right.
So it's just I think Fickell is a smart guy, obviously, and he kind of he just clearly handled it the wrong way, I feel like.
Yeah, it seems like he went into it emotional because it seems like even his never a doubt, it seems so definitive. You could easily sit and then his whole Locke hasn't been put in position, blah, blah, blah. You could just literally say hey, we got a bunch of young guys. They haven't got the reps that we would like. We're going to go with Locke right now, or we're going to go with Locke unless something changed. You could have gave him a vote of confidence and not said never a doubt. But it's you start to watch the press conference that CJ had and these different ones that Kedrick posted. Do these guys all hate Phil Longo? Because it seems no one's really that sad that he's gone, and everyone's just well, sometimes it just doesn't work out, and it's just
I tried to convince myself at work today that they are just lying on purpose so Nebraska doesn't scheme for Mabry Mettauer. That's my dream.
I would love that, honestly.
Dream.
Well, the thing is, I did a little more digging on that too. I think the reason. Not that I heard the reason why Mabry wouldn't start after this is because Phil Longo was so in on his hand signals and relay and everything. And they actually didn't use the microphone for a lot. And let that sink in.
Stupid.
Let that sink in how ridiculous that is, that you're not using technology afforded to you. You're after all the sign stealing last year with Michigan, you're going to sign in all your plays when you don't have to anymore. First of all, that's a fireable offense. Second of all, a guy making his first start on the road, trying to have to do because they're probably going to huddle now, trying to do listening to the play, regurgitating the play in the huddle. They probably haven't huddled all season. So trying to expect him to do all that with a week's prep, totally get it. But that literally comes back to what Dylan said is you just had a bye week. Mm-hmm. If you go out and you lose 45-6 to Oregon with maybe Mabry starting, okay. Or you lose 45-6 because Braden plays a half and Mabry plays a half. Okay. In the win-loss column, the only thing you're measured by as a head coach is your results. Did you win or did you lose? And at the end of the day, whether you won 6 or you lost 16-13 or 105-13, an L is an L.
Yeah, I will say, going back to one of the first episodes we ever recorded, I did a Phil Longo, what he looked like, and I said he looks like a lesbian gym teacher. So he's always got another career path that he can go down if this whole football thing doesn't work out. So you're going to be all right, Phil. Don't worry.
I think that was the episode that said, hey, I want to see if they need someone else to come on the show and talk ball. Because I was they get my vibes. I like that.
That's played me up a perfect transition there.
We'll always do.
Why don't we throw it around the table here real quick? Ryan, what is your record prediction for the final 2 games of the season?
Oh Lord. Final two. I'm gonna have to probably go 1-1, just because I want to say 2-0 or 0-2. Like statistically, I think that we're more likely to go 2-0, just because if we've been consistently inconsistent all year. You win 2, you lose 2, you win 3, you lose 3, and now we're here. So it's like if trends hold, like we got to win, right? So I want to say 2-0, but I'm gonna go 1-1, and I would sacrifice. Not that I get any choice, and we don't really get to determine the wins and losses. I'm fine not even going to Nebraska and just eating an L. You better win that axe, bro. If you lose that at home and to PJ, I don't care what. I don't care if the city of Madison is under World War III. You cannot lose to that dude. Like the guy we fired lost to that guy too many times, and that's why he doesn't have a job. So we can't lose to that guy. So I'm gonna say 1-1 with everything you have into that last one.
Jay, where's your head at?
I'm with you 1-1. I just think like going into Nebraska is going to be tough. I know we kind of have their number, and I do think there's a cat climbing up my chair now. I do think that our defense will play well, but like I just have zero confidence or faith in Braden Locke and the offense that like the defense can hold Nebraska to 13 points, but I don't know if we can score 13 points. It's just that bad. But I'm kind of with you, Ryan, where I'm just like trying to be optimistic and hoping like it's the Axe, man. You got to do something to win that game. And I think they'll pull out everything they can, especially if they need to get bowl eligible. Because I do think that matters to the players probably too. Like you don't want to be on that team that breaks that streak.
Yeah,
What
right.
were you
Has
saying
been a
about
losing
Detroit?
team in Madison since 2001.
Dylan, what were you saying about Detroit though? It's
beautiful right around Christmas time, is what I hear.
Hey, they're reinventing the city. Detroit 2.0, new Detroit.
New Detroit.
yeah, new Detroit, same snow.
I
So
think they call that gentrification, but I don't know.
Coop, before I ask you,
educated people like to call it that. Yeah.
Coop, before we find out where your head's at for the last two, I want to throw a stat out there, see if this changes anyone's mind. Because Coop, I know your feelings about Nebraska. Nebraska has now lost 9 straight games with full eligibility on the line, dating back to 2016. And 8 of those losses have come within the last 2 seasons.
Gosh.
So this is a program that has talk about not being able to close.
Yeah. I mean, I've always said, like, I kind of like Matt Rule. I think he's a good football coach. I hate that he's at Nebraska. But he might just be the Cliff Kingsbury of college football now. Where, like, with the Cardinals, what they start out, Ryan? Like 8-0, 9-0, and then didn't they miss the playoffs?
yeah, we were 10-2. AJ Green didn't turn around, and Rasul Douglas for the Packers, which our listeners love, got that interception at 10-2, and then we didn't win another game the rest of the year.
It was like every year, like once you hit October, it's like Cliff Kingsbury just becomes the worst
Cliffy
football
season,
coach
baby. Cliffy season
in the NFL, and it's happening again in Washington with Jaden Daniels. But that's what might be happening with Matt Rule. It's like after you hit that 5th win, he just does it. His brain short circuits, and he doesn't know what to do.
He's only been there 1 year, though. He's only been there 1 year. He didn't do that at Baylor or Temple, though.
But anywho, with all that said, 0-2, I've given up on life.
Wow.
The Cowboys are a part of this, but I'm given up.
Coop's in a really dark place
because the Cowboys suck.
It's
basketball. I'm on the basketball season, dude.
Can I make a quick point about Nebraska before Dylan, you give your prediction?
Absolutely.
So I don't necessarily read too much into bulletin board material, but I think it is going to be a tough task going to Nebraska. If you remember the last 2 games, which, it kind of gets into that old argument where they talk about, well, PC left an empty cupboard and we still have so many PC players. It took a Graham Mertz sneak to beat them 2 years ago. And then last year, it literally took Braylon Allen, an NFL center, Tanner Mordecai, who's a practice squad, NFL quarterback, and overtime to win last year at home. So and lastly, Dylan Raiola was quoted as saying, like, he talked to Dylan Gabriel because they're both Usos from the islands. And they were saying, like, he talked to Dylan about, like, game planning for Wisconsin and that kind of stuff. So any kind of, like, quarterback to quarterback inside tips, I am terrified of Nebraska, and I haven't said that in 10 years because if they're ever going to get one, like you said, 0-9 and bowl eligibility, like you can only bet on black so many times and have it hit red before it's black. So I don't know, man. Like if I'm always worried about this one and the Purdue one because like you beat Purdue 17 times in a row. Eventually, that pendulum has to swing back at least once. So I think this might be the year Nebraska gets their one and gets that trophy that they created.
I think that's totally fair. I don't even think that I initially would have went into this conversation thinking this, but I'm going to take them to go 2-0 down the stretch here.
You're a good man.
I am, and I didn't see – because I didn't really see myself making that selection. But, Luke Fickell, one of the comments that he had made in his press conference after the game that it made me have a little bit of belief was just when he was talking about how this team this time against Oregon didn't bat an eyelash. Like they genuinely thought they were going to win that game. And like that, he hadn't seen that, out of this group. And that he said, he thinks something is building and that it, effectively that it hasn't materialized yet. And that's on him. But, he thinks something's coming. I think Phil Longo getting shown the door is going to just do enough to spark them this week. I think Nebraska is going to be tough, and I think it's going to be a really close game, but I see a world where we can run the football on them. And, we still got Vinny Anthony having a hell of a year, take the top off him one time. I don't think they're going to have to score that many to beat Nebraska. And I think there's going to be just enough of a spark to will themselves. So I'm going to take them this week, and then I'm also going to take them because you can't lose the axe to PJ Fleck. You just can't. And I just can't envision a world that I live in where that happens. And you'll never hear me utter that we are not going to beat the Gophers when asked, my opinion. So by taking Nebraska, it means I'm taking 2-0, and that's what I'm going to stick with.
Fickell wins 7 games. What's the temperature on him in the offseason from the fan base?
Hot.
I think it all depends on his hire. I think 5-7 and 7-5 for me in particular, and the people that I talk to a lot, I think the temperature would be the same. I think it's really tied into his next offensive coordinator, because if you don't get that one right, I feel like by game 3, that seat is going to be burning, or that seat is going to be ice cold based on the hire. So I don't know if it's necessarily tied to these results.
One thing that I'm really interested in particular with this next, coordinator hire, like Phil Longo was the 13th highest paid offensive coordinator in college football. Yeah, right. But like they spent some money that time, and I think the highest paid offensive coordinator sits around $2.1 million. One thing I'm interested in with this in particular is the athletic department going to pony up the money to really take a big swing? Because like you said, Ryan, if Fickell has to nail this hire, or he's going to lose his job. He won't get to make a third offensive coordinator hire in his time here if he doesn't get it right. And if Fickell doesn't get it right and he is fired, got to think that Chris McIntosh is pretty walking right behind him. So are they going to consider, finding that extra money to take a big swing? Because it would
better. I don't care how many snaps we got to cut.
Benefit a few people potentially.
Well,
I don't care if we cut.
There's a model for that, though. If you look at a couple years ago, Jim Harbaugh was almost on the outs and took a large pay cut to then be able to afford whoever. Yeah. Was it Wink Martindale and who was their mentor? To get all those guys paid to keep them, who are now, I don't remember. Is it Wink still there?
No, he's with them in L.A., isn't he?
Jesse Zinter is definitely his DC in LA. But either way, he was able to.
Greg Roman's with him, I think, in LA as the coordinator.
Greg Roman's OC. But I think short of that, plus, are you guaranteed results? Because I feel like you have to hire something that is pre-packaged, comes with a quarterback, because a lot of people are saying
that's a big piece for that.
You got to bring something in where that person can get it and go. Because you get into that schedule, everybody talks about the schedule, which I would argue is very similar to this year, which we always keep making schedule excuses, but not a lot of other programs make those schedule excuses. You either win or you lose.
This is what the Big Ten is now.
Yeah.
You're going to have a couple ranked teams on your schedule every year. Did Indiana have a lesser schedule this year? Absolutely. You play who you play. But at the end of the day, like, you're going to have 2 or 3, 4 ranked teams, and that's Big Ten. Like, deal with it. And if you are not successful, like week 2, like, you can't take a chance on a up-and-comer, you know, like when Bert down in Illinois, he got that kid, Barry Looney from University of Texas, San Antonio, or wherever he was, and they were like racking up points, and like they took it. You got to get something like that. You got to get. I don't care if it comes from a lower level, if it comes from like you poach, kind of like Kotelnicki got taken from a P5. Well, yeah, Big 12 P5 to P5. Whatever you get has to be prepackaged and ready to go, and you got to bring a quarterback with you.
I'm building my list right now, man. Like, I just went and looked at like top scoring offenses in the country. First one that came to mind, Washington State. They got a good quarterback. He's a dark horse Heisman candidate. Ben Arbuckle's their offensive coordinator. Never fucking heard of him. But hey, let's go try to get that guy.
Well, and they're also going to the Mountain West. So, right, they're doing Mountain West. Are they still? No, they're staying in the Mountain West adjacent, where they basically took the decent Mountain West team. So he may want to come to the Big Ten. Like that would be a solid hire. Like prepackaged, bring your quarterback with you.
I just did it, Luke. I did it for you, Fickell. Just get it done
for free.
Now
GMJ, dude.
You.
Chardonnay J out here making moves.
If you're good at something, Jay, never do it for free.
Bingo.
Well, I think on that note, it's time to pivot. Talk about something a little bit more positive here. Greg Gard has got the boys buzzing 5-0 to start the year, cracked the top 25 rankings. I mean, I don't give a shit about the AP poll, but even still, I mean, the boys are doing their thing. Huge win over Arizona. Coop, want to throw it over to you. Let's just talk a little hoops here, man. What have been some of your early season takeaways? What are you liking?
Well, this was the first game I actually watched on TV because I don't know. I refuse to watch a game on Big Ten Plus. I got the Peacocks. I got every other sports streaming service you need. I'm not getting fucking Big Ten Plus to watch us play River Falls, dude. Get out of here. Takeaways, though, from just box score watching, Twitter watching, and then obviously watching the game against Arizona. Super hot take. John Tonji is good at basketball.
He is.
I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Hashtag analysis.
Yeah, that's the kind of shit you get on Talking Badgers. You're not going to get anywhere else, boys. Just a couple of things I had that stood out to me. Carter Gilmore and Kamari McGee both look bigger. I don't know. Maybe it was just me, but they looked like they both bulked up during the offseason. And I absolutely
did.
I absolutely love that. I mean, 2 guys who are going to be huge on the defensive end for us. And I even put in when we were watching the games when Gilmore picked up that second foul, I was like, I never thought I'd say this, but like Carter Gilmore having to go to the bench right now, like could lose us this game in the first half. Like that's how important he was.
He's taking a step. It really was.
Kamari McGee, I called it last year. I was ahead of the curve, boys. X factor. He's the guy you need.
Everly, man.
Yeah, when we were on a slump last year, we got McGee back. All of a sudden, boom, boys are back. Some would say they're in town. Another thing, Amos hit some big shots. He looks lost out there, though, at times.
Yeah, I got way more positive things to say than negative, but that's one of them. Defensively, he's lost, and offensively, he loves to get that shot off. He loves to get that shot off.
Yeah.
I thought Marcus Silver had a green light. He has passed the torch. Xavier Amos, green light.
But no, overall, love the scoring output we're getting on the offensive end. And I think all the players, and obviously Greg Gard will tell you that defense needs to tighten up here, boys. But I think that'll come with kind of more repetition, more practice, kind of later in the season. This is the first year a lot of these guys are playing with each other. So hopefully the rotations tighten up. But those are just kind of my initial takeaways watching the first game.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be it's going to be a little bit of a slow burn with this team defensively. I think we've seen possessions where they've kind of locked in a little bit. You've seen like that there's some defensive potential there for sure, but a lot of new faces. It will eventually, come together, hopefully on that end. Ryan, what about you, man? I know you've changed your opinion on Greg Gard. You've joined the club. We're happy to have you.
Yeah, I'm absolutely bricked up for Greg Gard.
Brick squad.
It's just, last year I kept asking, like, what are expectations? What are expectations? Well, shit. The expectations are not being embarrassing, firing coaching staff in the middle of the season. So Greg Gard, number one in my heart at this point. So I am A-OK being hard for Gard. Watching the game, big Carter Gilmore guy, as I told you before the season, Gilly Lock.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah.
I've been pushing the narrative.
Not to interrupt you, I wanted him to hit a 3 so bad so I could be like Gilly Glock with a little fucking gun emoji. Or I was going to Photoshop his face over like Tony Soprano with a fucking handgun.
I don't know if anybody else's pants just got tighter with that idea, but mine are super tight right now.
I'd have to be wearing pants, Ryan.
You start hitting the table. Don't. Yeah, now that he got rid of those YMCA geriatric, I only play on Saturday morning socks, like we are all the way back. Swag is a part of basketball, and I don't know if the knee highs with the short shorts. Not sure what we're doing. Jackie Moon was a little while ago, but now that he went back to the lower cut, crew socks, now he can hoop again. I can see it. Like you said, Xavier Amos got a green light from the parking lot. I don't know if that's going to work, but to kind of what Coop said, like talking about defensive efficiency and that kind. We all know, anybody that watch basketball, big ball knowers would tell you defense is all about effort. And I think when you're playing Alphabet Soup City or wherever the Texas, Rio Grande, the Vancheros, when you're playing a team like that, the boys aren't going to be as locked in. They're never going to let, like, you look at the Arizona performance and go to there. They just didn't forget how to play defense. They just said, hey, let's go out. It's kind of like an exhibition. And then they got to the end of the game and they're like, okay, we dicked around for long enough. This team hasn't missed. And then it started getting a little hairy, but I had no panic. I'm hard for Gard.
And Greg Gard deserves credit for the way that, he was able to adjust at halftime. Like Steven Crowell and Nolan Winter in that instance, they took a seat because they weren't able to defend at the pace that they were playing and with the size, and they were able to make an adjustment. And you had, that's when you had to rely on, Carter Gilmore and Xavier Amos. Like, I think this team is going to need Xavier Amos. Like I make some jokes about he's looking to get that shot off for sure, no matter what. Like every spot is his spot, but in defensively, he's still got a lot to learn. But he brings an athleticism. Like while I would not classify him as a slasher, like he can put the ball on the deck, and he's a versatile piece. Like we had 2 guys that we were able to plug in. They got the job done when they went small. They made an adjustment and it worked. And so I think they deserve a little bit of credit for that. Because the first half that was pretty tough.
And I'll just say this about the game yesterday against the Vaqueros. I mean, that's the classic R. Kelly trapped in the closet game right there. That would have been the easiest game for the Badgers to lose. So don't care how we won. Don't care how much we won by. To me, that's a blowout victory right there for the boys.
Jay, where's your head at been through all this?
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to a friend during the game, like texting back and forth, and he was like, how are we undersized against this team? And I was like, well, we're not undersized. It's just our bigs are kind of useless right now. And I think that's a lot of big credit to Greg Gard, because maybe I'm misremembering, but I don't feel like he adapted his lineups as much as he has already this year to play small. I don't feel like he was super willing to do that in each pass. And it's just a credit to him for showing, or maybe it's a credit to the coaching staff who's drawing up, their offensive sets and defensive sets to match up a little bit better.
I think their offense pairs well with just kind of everybody effectively playing a similar spot. Like I think that they've taken a step towards being way more positionless, and I think that's maybe why they've been able to do some of that.
Yeah, and then I had also said to him, I said, man, if the Badgers are a type of team that's going to score 30 points a game on free throws, they're going to piss a lot of teams off, but they're going to win a lot of games too. Like,
you mean like Purdue did for,
Right, but I mean, like, they're the most efficient free throw shooting team in the country right now. Like, it's insane how well they're shooting the ball from the free throw line. And I want to be on the record to say that Janicki is my favorite player on the team.
Oh, he's so sick.
The punchline.
I had no idea really like how effective he was going to be, but that dude is not scared of anybody. He's not scared of any jump shot. Like he's built for the moment.
At practice before the season, I was sitting right next to Kedrick, and we were watching. We were watching. They were doing some sprints, and the kid is insanely quick. And just throughout the practice, we looked at each other and we're like, I don't know what it looks like. I'm not quite sure, but you have to find a way to get this kid on the floor. He needs to be a part of the rotation. He's so comfortable out there. Like there are multiple players that have said that he's the best shooter on the team, but he's playing at 110 miles an hour. He keeps the ball moving offensively. And he's always moving off the ball. He makes a lot of winning plays in a small amount of time, and he's been really impactful.
I just can't wait, and I know it's going to happen. Like there's going to be a game where him and Kamari McGee just absolutely spark the team and bring them back or something, and it's going to be it's going to get me hard for Gard and hard for the Badgers. Like
I will. It's super early, but I will say that like this backcourt as a whole, like they are scoring. I mean, Tanjay is over 22 points a game right now. Blackwell's over 16 points. Max Klesmit's at over 14 right now. Like,
which Max Klesmit.
This feels sustainable for the most part. Like on the offensive side, I think they're going to continue to score the ball.
We also have to like acknowledge that like Blackwell has taken a massive step. I mean, he was already really good, and
sure.
He's taken a massive step. He settles them down. He takes control. He gets to the paint when they need to get to the paint. Like he's been very, very good in their first 5 games.
Absolutely, him and Tanjay both have been really aggressive in getting to the rack, and that just continues to open up a lot. That's something that we traditionally haven't had a lot of people who are capable of doing.
Yeah, and I know we got to get going shortly here, but just speaking of Klesmit, I think it'd be unfair to him and to everyone out there to not mention his defense against Arizona. I thought he played incredible on the defensive end. He was asked to do a lot, guarding Caleb Love, and Arizona's a hell of a team. They're going to be really good. They'll be just fine down the stretch. But I thought Klesmit was really good on the defensive end. One thing, I know we talked about Greg Gard kind of adjusting his rotations and the way we had to play smaller. And I tweeted this out. One thing I would love to see, though, they were just putting a 7-footer on the inbounder the whole game. We need to put Steven Crowell or someone. Crowell's a decent passer. Throw the ball off his cock. I've done it. It works. It's very effective.
No, can confirm. No, that's it. I knew before then, but the moment that Coop established himself as a fucking ride or die was in a middle school basketball game. Go up for a rebound, and this kid just turns around, punches me right in the eye, out of nowhere. Didn't see it coming, and I got like subbed out of the game. Cooper, before I leave, Coop just turned to me and said, "I got you." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "I got you,"
and I did.
So. Yeah, Coop was inbounding the ball, and the guy was on him, and Coop didn't even take 3 or 4 seconds even. He just fucking wound up, threw it off the guy's dick, and you could hear it fucking pop from across the rim. Kid exited the game. There was no return. And Cooper just kind of pointed, and I was just like, that's my guy.
Yeah.
I'm proud of him.
Dude, it stopped the game for like 25 minutes before like they could get him like off the floor and out of the gym. And the ref's like, you did that on purpose, didn't you? And I was like, no, me? I would never, dude.
I thought that was obvious. Coop, I know you got some geography to send us out with tonight.
We do. Little population density fun fact for the boys today. Just because I got down a Wikipedia rabbit hole this weekend somehow on population densities and populations across the globe. It was a very interesting Wikipedia night. But anywho, the one that really stood out to me here was Singapore. Obviously, over yonder, a lot of people. I think China and India both have like 1.4 billion at 1 and 2 in the world, and then we're like number 3 at like 333 million. But in Singapore, anywho, the population density is very astonishing. Singapore is 281 square miles. Okay. There's 6 million people there. That is 21,400 people per square mile. Could you imagine living like that? Like, how do you move?
That's my fucking nightmare.
Yeah, and we were talking about that at work because I brought this up to the fellas at work. I was like, I couldn't imagine like living in a town, probably like 4 times the size of DeForest that's in 1 square mile, or like the population, like in 1 square mile. It would drive me fucking crazy.
So, it's not quiet.
No, not at all. But anyway, so yeah, that's a little geography fun fact. I did some population density digging this weekend, as one does in their time off.
Yeah, not an impulse that I can relate to at all, but I am glad you shared that experience with. All right.
It's interesting.
That's going to do it for us today. As always, thanks for being here, making Talking Badgers part of your week. If you're able to share the show with a friend, make sure that you're subscribed, and let's keep building this community together. And hopefully we got something good to talk about here next week.